Been doing art since I was old enough to hold a paintbrush. My mom did artwork when I was growing up, and she set up a little table next to her for me so I could basically just practice and draw and mess around with watercolors, and that's when I really fell in love with being creative and seeing that I had the ability to create what I wanted right in front of me. And so that carried on through my younger years, and then kind of died out when I was actually in high school. Oddly enough, I did all business classes and things in high school. But then moving forward, I realized that my calling was in art, and I was actually later adopted. So my adopted mom and I were having a conversation over the phone about what I was planning on doing when I went to college. And I told her that I was planning on focusing on art, specifically photography at that time. And she begged me, she said, "Please, Jesse, don't be an artist, you'll starve. You'd make a better police officer." And also at that time I was very politically minded. And so I really selected that as the defining moment when I decided to become an artist, and that was about 8 years ago. And ever since then, I've been doing everything I possibly can to work towards being an artist and being a creative and surviving solely off my talent and skill, which is what I'm doing right now. Earlier, when I was first starting to do artwork, it was a challenge. I didn't always know what I wanted to paint. I just knew that I wanted to paint. So sometimes I would really struggle and become agitated. But now I've worked at it for many, many years and honed my skills. So a lot of the time there'll be a show that has a specific theme, or there will be a commission that somebody has asked for, or perhaps there's a mural, so I have to do a sketch for it. So a lot of it's a lot more planned out at this point. It's I know more or less what's going to happen on the canvas. Really, the only play is when I'm mixing and doing things with colors, and sometimes you might learn a new technique or pick up a different kind of way of going about doing something, which is where the playful part comes in. So there's always an element of change that goes on in the work, but I think for the most part, when I start to paint now, I have a vision. As far as planned out artwork versus organic artwork, I would say that there's a time and a place for both, really. I absolutely love having the option of sketching out a piece, planning every component of it, moving forward on it, and getting to see the final product was exactly what I had envisioned in my mind. That's the full artistic process. Organically working is just as great as well. Automatic painting, the same as automatic writing. Sometimes things just need to come out of you, and I love giving over to the artistic process when that happens, and just allowing. When I'm going through the process of the organic flow, it's almost like focusing on nothing. It's just putting yourself into the mind frame of creating and allowing the materials that you're using to take you where they're going to take you. Like, you hear a lot of the time that the artists don't choose the medium chooses the artist. And it's kind of the same way when you're doing automatic painting or turning yourself over to the creative process, is that there's an image that needs to be created, and you're the tool to create it. And when you put yourself into this open-minded state, it's a lot easier sometimes to create a beautiful piece of artwork that you otherwise would not have ever allowed to come into your own mind or specifically thought about creating. And so that's a lot of times how artists will develop their new series or their new style of work or their progression of work, is just turning over to that automatic allowing. And when that happens, I think you see some really fantastic work out of people. As far as the art scene in Phoenix goes, I love it here. I think that Phoenix is an incubator for artists. There's a lot of amazing opportunities in Phoenix for artists specifically. There's a lot of vacant walls. There's a lot of business owners that have open minds to the art scene, and I think there's a lot of people that are communally minded and progressively minded that really want to see Phoenix turn into a full-on city. And when you look at places like San Francisco and Philadelphia and Chicago, they're fully far on developed. You also get a little bit of the negativity with some of those cities. So Phoenix had the opportunity to learn. You don't see a ton of graffiti here. You see a lot more street art and thought out, planned out murals that are having artists specifically selected to come in and paint those murals, and most of them are getting hopefully paid for their work. So I think that Phoenix is a really unique art scene in that it hasn't quite reached its potential yet with a lot of the artists that are in downtown, and I'd say you probably have about a dozen different really strong artists operating in downtown Phoenix right now, which means that you do have the opportunity to see a lot of the same styles of work, but then you also get to see those artists progress from 8 years ago, 10 years ago, when there was no money and no thought being put into downtown Phoenix, versus now when you've got the whole entire city really paying close attention to the arts district, specifically in downtown. And that's giving artists that have been operating down here for a decade or around that time a lot of great opportunity. And they've been honing their skills for that past decade for free most of the time. They pay for their own materials. They pay for their own supplies. And they've really busted their asses getting this place to be worthy of having the city pump money into it and pay attention to it. So I would say that this art scene in downtown Phoenix, the people who play a part in it, whether you like an image that they provide or not, the fact that they have done something to beautify an area that was completely forgotten about speaks volumes about them as people. So I look at their character, and what they've done for the whole entire downtown scene is amazing. They've turned it around, and they've given this city, this portion of the city anyhow, a chance. And so I'm thrilled and excited to be just a small part of that scene. A lot of my artwork in the earlier days was based on reaction. Now that I've been getting into different things like installation work, I feel that that's my main focus, is just getting a reaction out of people. And so when you boil it down, anytime I have somebody look at a piece of artwork, viewing it in a gallery, on the street, on a wall, anywhere, it's about emoting something out of them, because every individual is different. They're going to find and connect with something in that image that not everybody will. There may be a general theme running through the piece that most people will see and connect to and interact with, but I think each individual looks at a piece in a different light, and so when they see something that they really feel, you can see it in their eyes. And sometimes you get negative reactions, but that's okay too. I enjoy the negative reactions just as much as the positive reactions, because what you've done is you've affected somebody's life. You've made them look at an image, and then you've affected their emotions. Their chemical balance has now changed in their body, whether it's, again, for a positive or a negative, but you've given them an impression that they believe in something, whether they absolutely hate and despise and cannot stand this image and think that it's completely wrong and shouldn't exist in the world, versus, I can't believe you painted this. This is something that's been in my mind for forever. I just have never been able to put it into imagery and then put it out into the world. And that's when you have people that purchase artwork. That's when you develop collectors, is they see something in you, that they see something in themselves, and your artwork is able to represent a small portion of their personality and who they really truly are inside. And so I love to leave it up to the viewer really to decide most of the time what the piece is about, because I like to have a few different concepts running through my work at any given time. That way when somebody says, hey, is it this? Like, of course it is. What do you see? I painted it, I have my own view of it, but if you see something, like, that's what it is. It's anything to anybody. Where I want to be in the next 10 years as an artist is doing more than just surviving from next job to next job. It's the same concept of when you're working in a 9-to-5 job. Nobody wants to live paycheck to paycheck, and the same with me. I don't want to live job to job. I want to be able to know that I've got a studio space that I can pay for. I want to have printing presses of my work out. Eventually, I want to have a book that's full of my artwork. I look at artists like Banksy and Buff Monster and Shepard Fairey that are probably some of the most, I don't want to say prolific street artists, but they're ones that I pay attention to. And so when I see work that they've done that's taken them 20 years to develop to get where they're at, basically I see that the next 10 years is my next step in getting to that point, because I've really been focusing on art for about the last decade, and the last 4 years is really when it started to take off for me. And so I'd say in the next 10 years I hope to be doing pieces that are the entire sizes of buildings. I hope to have a book out. I hope to have a website that I don't have to operate. Basically, I hope to have a team of people that are helping me develop and create ideas so that I can communicate with the world, because that's what my artwork is all about anyways, is communicating with other people. And again, I will generally have a message that runs through my work, but the communication, specifically with murals, you cannot control what concept is put across to an individual when they look at a mural. And so that's part of the beauty of it, and part of what I hope to achieve on a much grander scale is focusing, honing my concepts and my ideas as an artist that are of a positive message, and put that out into the world. And I want to do it with a team of people, and I want to do it from a professional studio.